Copy and pasting in video games is always a bit of a hassle. I mean, it's not really realistic to expect 50 unique enemy designs per level. It's not even limited to enemies. Think of skyboxes, sound cues, the works. At some point, you're gonna come across something you've seen or heard elsewhere. In level-based games, you can generally mask this pretty well due to the more compact nature of your playable world. But in open world games, it's a lot harder. Think, for example, of the world design, but especially the interior dungeon design in Oblivion. One of that game's main critiques was that its dungeons felt and looked samey, and well, that makes sense. The dungeon creators literally had warehouse cells that housed all the assets they needed, which they would then copy and paste into the game world. By itself, this isn't such an outlandish concept, but this work method would evolve over time into having whole chunks of dungeons that would just get copied over and over, with only minimal differences in how they'd be decorated afterwards. Then skip ahead to Skyrim's release. While they now had a way better workflow in order to create dungeons, that doesn't mean the developers didn't cut some corners here and there. My favorite example of this being the whole bed situation in Morthal. So, you know how in every hold capital, the Jarl has their own little palace or keep housing their families and servants, right? In the bigger cities, those all consist of unique architecture. But in the smaller hold capitals, Dawnstar, Falkreath, Morthal and Winterhold, they don't have that luxury. I mean, in a way they do. While all the buildings in those cities consist of the same generic farmhouses seen elsewhere, the Jarl's longhouse is unique, though it is still shared by all four capitals. So that's unique in quotations. In Falkreath and Winterhold, they couldn't even bother with giving their longhouse or hall a unique name. For shame, guys. In theory, knowing that they all have the same architecture to work with, you would think that they couldn't really mess this up, right? Well, the building's layout in all four cases is identical. The Jarl has the biggest bedroom and the only double bed present. And this is where it gets tricky. See, let's take Dawnstar for a moment here. Jarl Skull the Elder sleeps in the Jarl's quarters. The one-person bedroom above him is occupied by Court Wizard Medina. Inside of the War quarters, War Advisor Frogmore Bannerthorn sleeps on his military cot. And in the upstairs bedroom, Housecarl Yalt can be found. Now, there are two problems. One, there is a servant named Bulfrek here as well, who doesn't have any place to sleep. Not that he can, as he doesn't even have a sleep package. And two, you might have noticed that I never mentioned the steward. Well, that's because there isn't any. Dawnstar is the only capital without any sort of steward in service, and that's just never addressed anywhere. In Falkreath, Sidgeir claims the large bedroom, with steward Nenya sleeping above him. War Advisor Legate Skulnar on the military cot, and Housecarl Helvard above him. This all works out since there are no other servants to take care of, but this time there also isn't a court wizard. In fact, besides Dawnstar, none of the other small holds employ a court wizard. Again, for whatever reason, this is also never addressed anywhere. In Winterhold, Jarl Courier graciously shares his double bed with his wife Tena, who also serves as the housecarl. Their son Asser sleeps above them, with military advisor Kai Wetpommel on the military cot and steward Malur Selot above him. Again, this only works because the housecarl and the Jarl share a bed and because there is no court wizard to speak of. And now we get to Morthal, where all those problems basically come together in a big cluster of Bethesda fuckery. While the past longhouses had either 4 or 5 inhabitants, with all the problems that brings with it, Morthal's High Moon Hall has 6 people crammed inside. Jarl Idgrod Ravencrone shares her double bed with her husband Aselfur, who's also the steward. Like in Winterhold, with the parents sharing the double bed, their youngest child, Yorick in this case, takes the child's bed above them. Then the bed above the war room is occupied by their daughter, Idgrod the Younger. Now, in all previous instances, I specified that the military advisor sleeps on a special military cot. This is because said cot is actually a unique Civil War related type of bedding specifically reserved for the acting commander. Of note is that Mortal's war room does not have this. Instead, the war quarters hold a bed for Gorm, the housecarl, as the usual housecarl sleeping quarters have been taken up by another member of the family. This kerfuffle leaves the acting field commander in Jalmarch, Legate Torinus Dwelus, actively displaced. One important thing you need to know is that the field commanders in Skyrim aren't really characters as much as they are objects or set pieces. They serve a singular purpose: give generic Civil War dialogue and make the war feel all that more close. Even their names aren't really important. Internally, their name is shared, with the only difference being the place that they serve. if you look at their template data, you will find that the only thing they don't share with each other are their traits. What does that mean in this context? Well, they look visually distinct, but besides that, they're all identical. Legate 7 Talendas and Istar Cairnbreaker are essentially just palette swaps of the same idea. What does that mean for our case in Morthal? Well, as you saw, these guys don't have unique AI packages. They all share one master package with set values. This, luckily, or unluckily, depending on how you look at things, doesn't mean that Legate Wheelus just stops functioning completely due to his cod not existing. No, the package makes him seek out the bed that he's linked to. So, does that bed exist? Well, yes, actually. The developers considered this and gave the Legate a specific bed inside of the Morthal guardhouse. That's as far as their consideration went, however. As, well, these guys aren't intended to ever leave their respective longhouses. Have you ever seen a video of one of those robots that's been tested hundreds of times, taking its first steps outside and immediately just eating dirt? Well, that's what the Legate does here as well. He stands outside of the door to the guardhouse, all night long, instead of entering, because he simply can't. Though, he needs to, you know? His bed is in there, but he just can't. The door is locked and he doesn't have the key, as, remember, he doesn't have unique inventory. Actually, scratch that. No one has the key, as it isn't found in-game at all. And even if he did have the key, that still wouldn't help him, because the key itself isn't actually tied to the door in the first place. And because of the nature of these field commanders, this problem carries over to the Legate Stormcloak equivalent as well. What I do find interesting to note is the fact that besides Winterhold, all of these smaller holds have a barracks or a guardhouse equivalent. Yet only Dawnstar has a guard captain defined, and he doesn't even sleep in the guardhouse. I would be open to having a guard captain doubling as a housecarl, but I would let them sleep in the guardhouse. This would also remedy the space issues in the White Hall, but that's besides the point. This all inherently seems like a big disconnect between the people responsible for the world design and the people responsible for the characters inhabiting it. And knowing Bethesda, both of those tasks might have just been given to the intern audio mixer in between their breaks. I wonder if all of this inconsistency is just a result of an actual decision that was made to have the holds be different, or if they wanted to have it more consistent, but they just didn't have the time to flesh it out. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.